Hello, everyone, and welcome to Enlightening India. Today, we'll be reading the second chapter in the first book that we are reading currently. Before we get into this chapter, let me quickly summarize what happened in the last one. So, the kids had got off from school, their term was over, and they were now coming home. So, they had successfully reached home. It had been a good journey, they had had a lot of fun. And when they reached home, they had a good snack, and a very heavy gale was blowing, very fast winds, right? So that was the scene here, and then they were going to sleep by the end of the chapter. And let's see what chapter 2 has in store for us. Chapter 2, A Shock in the Night. It was nice to climb up the steep stairs to the familiar bedrooms that night. All the children were yawning widely. Their long train journey had tired them. If only this awful wind would stop, said Anne, pulling the curtain aside and looking out into the night. There's a little moon, George. It keeps popping out between the scurrying clouds. Let it bob, said George, scrambling into bed. I'm jolly cold. Hurry, Anne, or you'll catch a chill at the window. So the girls have come up to their bedroom. They have climbed the steep stairs and they're about to go to sleep. Before they go to sleep, Anne tells George, look out the window. There's a moon which is quickly moving around with the clouds. So George tells her, that's very good, but it's very cold. With the whole stormy winds blowing around us, it's getting very cold. If you stay by the window for a long time, you'll catch a cold. So quickly close the window and come sleep. Let's sleep comfortably. Don't the waves make a noise, said Anne, still at the window. And the gale in the old ash tree is making a whistling, howling sound and bending it right over. Timmy, hurry up and get on my bed, commanded George, screwing up her cold toes. That's one good thing about being at home. And I can have Timmy on my bed. He's far better than a hot water bottle. So the kids are about to sleep, and before that, George tells her, Timmy, hey, why don't you also go and sleep? So quickly, let's all get into bed. We'll have a good day tomorrow. Let's all sleep. You're not supposed to have him on your bed at home any more than you're supposed to at school, said Anne, curling up in bed. Aunt Fanny thinks he sleeps in the basket over there. Well, I can't stop him coming on my bed at night, can I? If he doesn't want to sleep in his basket, said George. That's right, Timmy, darling. Make my feet warm. Where's your nose? Let me pat it. Good night, Tim. Good night, Anne. Good night, said Anne sleepily. I hope that Sooty boy comes, don't you? He does sound fun. Yes, and anyway, father would stay in with Mr. Lenore, the boy's father, and not come out with us, said George. Father doesn't mean to, but he does spoil things somehow. He's not very good at laughing, said Anne. He's too serious. A loud bang made both girls jump. That's the bathroom door, said George, with a groan. One of the boys must have left it open. That's the sort of noise that drives father mad. There it goes again. So before going to bed, the girls are having a quick conversation. When George calls Timmy to sleep on her bed and tells her, hey, yeah, in school you can't get Timmy on your bed because there must be rules about it. So you're doing this in the house. But even in the house, your mother tells that Timmy should sleep on his bed. He's a dog, and you know how you guys know, right? How parents are. They would have certain rules about you. Even you guys must have, your parents must have certain rules about your daily lifestyle. So there was a rule in George's household that the dog should only sleep on the dog's bed and not on the bed where George is sleeping. But anyways, George loved Timmy a lot, and both of them slept together. And then they have a small conversation about their father, that if Sooty Lenore, the kid, comes here, he will be able to play with him, one more person to play with. And whereas then Mr. Lenore and George's father, Uncle Quentin, would both be working together. So that is also taken care of. Then their parents won't disturb them because they'll be working together. Well, let Julian or Dick shut it. So as we just noticed, that there was a door in the house, the bathroom door, which was open, and since it was very windy, so the door was opening and closing on its own and making a loud noise. So the girls decided, let's not get up to close it. It's very cold. We will let the boys take care of it. Well, let Julian or Dick shut it, said Anne, who was now beginning to feel nice and warm. But Julian and Dick were thinking that George or Anne might shut it. So nobody got out of bed to see the banging door. Very soon, Uncle Quentin's voice roared up the stairs, louder than the gale. Shut that door, one of you! How can I work with that noise going on? All four children jumped out of bed like a shot. Timmy leapt off George's bed. Everyone fell over him as they rushed to the bathroom door. There was a lot of giggling and scuffling. Then Uncle Quentin's footsteps were heard on the stairs, and the five fled silently to their room. As you would remember, Uncle Quentin does not like loud noises, right? He likes to work in total silence. So that way, since the door was making a lot of noise, nobody wanted to get up, and the boys thought that the girls would close the door, and the girls thought that the boys would close the door, passing the responsibility. So Uncle Quentin got very angry and he shouted at everyone, "What are you all of you doing? Close the door, close the door. It's making a lot of noise." So Uncle Quentin got very angry and he told them, "Somebody get up and close the door." And that's when the children fled and closed the door and things cooled down. The gale still roared. Uncle Quentin and Aunt Fanny came up to bed. The bedroom door flew out of Uncle Quentin's hand and slammed itself shut so violently that a vase leapt off a nearby shelf. Uncle Quentin leapt too, startled. "This wretched gale," he said fiercely. So in Uncle Quentin and Aunt Fanny's bedroom, there also the door was making a lot of noise, and it was moving a lot because of the stormy winds, right? And a point here, leapt means to jump. So Uncle Quentin leapt too. That means Uncle Quentin jumped. And startled means shocked, confused by what is happening, in shock. And fiercely means angrily. So he got very angry, uh, all because of this wind. Never known one like it. All the time we have been here. So never known one like it. By this, Uncle Quentin means he has never seen a storm that has been so severe, that has made so much noise. If it gets much worse, the fishermen's boats will be smashed up, even though they have pulled them as high up the beach as possible. It will blow itself out soon, dear, said Aunt Fanny, soothingly. Probably by the time morning comes, it will be quite calm. But she was wrong. The gale did not blow itself out that night. Instead, it raged around the house, even more fiercely, shrieking and howling like a live thing. Nobody could sleep. Timmy kept up a continuous low growling, for he did not like the shakes and rattles and howls. So Aunt Fanny and Uncle Quentin were discussing that this is a very big storm. If it does not stop soon, then the fishermen's boats that are in the ocean, they will get smashed with the rocks, and that's not going to be good, right? So Aunt Fanny tries to calm him down. She tells her everything is going to be okay. Let's go to bed. And probably everyone in the house is asleep now, since we as humans know what a storm is. But Timmy the dog, he was, he was continuously growling. He was scared. He was confused. He does not know what the storm is. Why is it making so much noise? So, and he probably did not get a lot of sleep that night. Towards dawn, the wind seemed in a fury. Anne thought it sounded as if it was in a horrible temper, out to do all the harm it could. She lay and trembled, half frightened. Suddenly, there was a strange noise. It was a loud and woeful groaning and creaking, like someone in great pain. The two girls sat up terrified. What could it be? So everything is done till now. The night is done. Now it's morning again, and apparently the wind did not simmer down. It did not calm down, and the wind seemed to be more angry. The wind had increased its speed. It had become more stormy than the previous night. And when the girls had gotten up, suddenly they noticed a groaning and creaking noise, like someone was in great pain. And the girls thought, what is that thing? The boys heard it too. Julian leapt out of bed and ran to the window. Outside stood the old ash tree, tall and black in the fitful moonlight. It was gradually bending over. It's the ash, it's falling, yelled Julian, almost startling Dick out of his wits. It's falling, I tell you. It will crash on the house. Quick, warn the girls, shouting at the top of his voice. Julian raced out of his door onto the landing. So, after hearing the noise, Julian was the first person who came out of the house to see what exactly is that noise. Even in all that stormy wind, Julian was brave enough to come out of the house and see what was making that noise. Then he noticed that a tree near the house, which is an ash tree, was breaking. It was falling down. So Julian got worried. He told his younger brother Dick to go and warn everyone in the house that the tree is falling, so everyone get to safety points because the tree is going to fall in the house and we don't want anybody to get hurt. Correct? Yes. Uncle, aunt, George, and Anne, come downstairs quickly. The ash tree is falling. George jumped out of bed, snatched at her dressing gown, and raced to the door, yelling to Anne. The little girl was soon with her. Amy ran in front. At the door of Aunt Fanny's bedroom, Uncle Quentin appeared, tall and amazed, wrapping his dressing gown around him. What's all this noise? Julian, what's? So everybody's Julian and Dick have successfully warned everyone, and everybody's running out. Why is Julian shouting? Why is Dick shouting? So everyone's running out in their dressing gowns to see what the whole commotion is about. Aunt Fanny, come downstairs. The ash tree is falling. Listen to its terrible groans and creaks, yelled Julian, almost beside himself with impatience. It will smash in the rooms and the bedrooms. Listen, listen, here it comes. Everyone fled downstairs as with an appalling wail. The great tree hauled up its roots and fell heavily to Kirin Cottage. There was a terrible crash and the sound of tiles slipping to the ground everywhere. Oh dear, said poor Aunt Fanny, covering her eyes. I knew something would happen. Quentin, we ought to have had that ash tree topped. I knew it would fall in a great gale like this. So the tree, sadly, the tree falls on falls on Kirin Cottage in George's house, and it hits the roof, and the roof breaks with tiles going everywhere. And Aunt Fanny tells her husband that we should have cut down this tree to more manageable heights earlier, but we did not. And see, now today in a in big storm, it has fallen down. What will we do? Oh dear. What has it done to the roof? After the great crash, there had come other smaller noises, sounds of things falling, thuds and little smashing noises. The children could not imagine what was happening. Timmy was thoroughly angry and barked loudly. Uncle Quentin slapped his hand angrily on the table and made everyone jump. So now that the tree had fallen, there were other noises. You can imagine, right? When the tree falls on the roof, other things inside the house are going to fall. They're going to fall here and there. There were other noises, and everybody was confused. Nobody knew what was happening. And Uncle Quentin was again angry. Let's see what happens next. Stop that dog barking. I will turn him out, said Uncle Quentin. But nothing would stop Timmy barking or growling that night. And George at last pushed him into the warm kitchen and shut the door on him. I feel like barking or growling myself, said Anne, who knew exactly what Timmy felt like. Julian had the tree broken. Julian has the tree broken in the roof. Uncle Quentin took a powerful torch and went carefully up the stairs to the landing to see what damage had been done. He came down looking rather pale. The tree has crashed through the attic, smashed the roof in, and wrecked the girl's bedroom, he said. So after the tree had fallen, Uncle Quentin takes a torch. He goes upstairs to check what all damage has happened. And they notice that the attic, the roof, and the girl's bedroom is destroyed. Attic is a place in the house where things are kept. It's towards the top of the house where you can keep your old things, where people generally keep their old things. A big branch has penetrated the boys' room too, but not badly. But the girls' room is ruined. They would have been killed if they had been in their beds. Everyone was silent. It was an awful thought that George and Anne had had such a narrow escape. So the girls' bedroom was destroyed. If you would remember, the girls had just now run out of their rooms because Julian had warned them to come out because the tree was falling. And just very narrowly, the girls had escaped. Had they still been in their rooms, then it would have been bad. The trees would have fallen on them. So luckily, everything is good here. Good thing I yelled my head off to warn them then, said Julian cheerfully, seeing how white Anne had gone. By the line, how white Anne had gone, what the author is trying to tell us is how scared Anne had become. When a person becomes scared, they their face becomes pale. They get a slight whitish complexion on their face. Their face becomes slightly white. So seeing how scared Anne had become, Julian tries to cheer everyone, tries to make everyone happy by saying, "Ah, good thing that I warned you all. Now everything is okay. Let's let's think positively. Cheer up, Anne. Think what a tale you'll have to tell at school next term. I think some hot cocoa would do us all good," said Aunt Fanny, pulling herself together, though she felt very shaken. "I will go and make some. Quentin, see if the fire is still alight in your study. We want a little warmth." The fire was still alight. Everyone crowded around it. They welcomed Aunt Fanny when she came in with some steaming milk cocoa. So Aunt Fanny, being the lovable person that she was also very scared, but she wanted to calm everyone down because she's the adult and she wanted to take things a bit more strongly than she was currently capable of. But she decided, let's everybody let's sit in a room where there's a heater. Let's all get warm. I will make some hot chocolate for you. Basically, a hot beverage that would feel comforting when everybody's so scared. And let's try to simmer down. Let's calm down. Let's see. Anne looked curiously around the room as she sat sipping her drink. This was where her uncle did his work, his very clever work. He wrote his difficult books here, books which Anne could not understand at all. He drew his queer diagrams here and made many strange experiments. But just at that moment, Uncle Quentin did not look very clever. He looked rather ashamed. Somehow Anne soon knew why. So everybody was sitting in Uncle Quentin's study and they were having some hot cocoa. Meanwhile, Anne noticed everything. She thought, till yesterday, Uncle Quentin used to do all his work here and he used to be very smart. He used to be able to do everything. But today, even Uncle Quentin is not looking very well uh, because of the whole tree falling on his house. "Quentin, it is a mercy none of us was hurt or killed," said Aunt Fanny, looking at him rather sternly. "I told you a dozen times you should get that ash tree topped. I knew it was too big and heavy to withstand a great gale. I was afraid it would blow down on the house." "Yes, I know, my dear," said Uncle Quentin, stirring his cup of cocoa very vigorously. "But I was so busy these last months. You always make that an excuse for not doing urgent things," said Aunt Fanny with a sigh. "I shall have to manage things myself in the future. I can't risk our lives like that." So Uncle Quentin and Aunt Fanny are having a conversation, and Aunt Fanny tells him, "I told you so many times to cut down the tree because it had grown so big, and if a strong wind blew, then the tree could fall." Uncle Quentin tells her, "Yes, I should have done it, but you know how busy I am." So Aunt Fanny tells him, "Ah, you are always making excuses for not doing urgent things." Well, a thing like this would only happen once in a blue moon. Once in a blue moon means very rarely. Uh, yeah, it's very rare that you see a blue moon in the sky, right? So once in a blue moon is a thing happening maybe once in a thousand times, a very rare thing. Well, a thing like this would only happen once in a blue moon, cried Uncle Quentin, getting angry. Then he calmed down. seeing that Aunt Fanny was really shocked and upset. Very nice, very near to tears. He put down his cocoa and slipped his arm around her. You have had a terrible shock, he said. Don't you worry about things. Maybe though they won't be so bad when morning comes. So all this had happened in the night, and Uncle Quentin also being a very angry fellow, but even he noticed that everybody was scared. So he tries to calm down Aunt Fanny. Don't worry, have some hot chocolate, and you have had a terrible shock. Don't worry about things. We'll see what happens tomorrow. We'll sort all of this tomorrow morning. Oh, Quentin, they will be much worse, said his wife. Where shall we sleep tonight? All of us. And what shall we do till the roof and upstairs rooms are prepared? The children have only just come home. The house will be full of workmen for weeks. I don't know how I'm going to manage. Leave it all to me, said Uncle Quentin. I will settle everything. Don't you worry. I'm scared about this. I'm sorry about this. Very sorry. Particularly as it's my fault. But I will straighten things out for everyone. You just see. Aunt Fanny didn't really believe him, but she was grateful for his comforting. So Uncle Quentin tells her Aunt Fanny, don't worry, we will sort this in the morning. You leave everything to me. I will decide everything. We'll do it together. Let's just sleep tonight. We'll find a way to get through the night and we'll sort everything in the morning. The children listened in silence, drinking their hot cocoa. Uncle Quentin was very clever and knew so many things. But it was so like him to neglect something urgent, like cutting off the top of the old ash tree. Sometimes he didn't seem to live in this world at all. It was no use going to bed. The room upstairs were either completely ruined or so messed up with bits and pieces and clouds of dust that it was impossible to sleep there. Aunt Fanny began to pile rugs on sofas. So the children could not go up, right? As we just discussed, the girls' room was destroyed and the boys was also fairly destroyed, and there was dust everywhere. So to get through the night, Aunt Fanny was taking carpets and she was putting it in the living room area so that everybody could lie down and just get through the night. There was one in the study, a big one in the sitting room, and a smaller one in the dining room. She found a camp bed in a cupboard and with Julian's help, put that up too. We'll just have to do the best we can, she said. There isn't much left of the night, but we'll get a little sleep if we can. The gale is not nearly so wide now. No, it's done all the damage it can, so it's satisfied, said Uncle Quentin grimly. Well, we will talk things over in the morning. The children found it very difficult to go to sleep after such an excitement, tired though they were. So obviously the carpets were put around that the children could sleep on, but Aunt Fanny had also found a small tent uh, in a cupboard, and with Julian's help, she had put that up too. So the children could somehow accommodate in with whatever resources they had. They could somehow manage the night. And since the wind was not very strong now, they thought that they will try to get some sleep, whatever they could. And that's about it. Also, a quick thing here. Just imagine if half of your house is broken and all the wind from outside is coming inside and you're trying to sleep on the carpet. Must be very chilly and very frightening. But that is how it is for the famous five today. Anne felt worried. How could they all stay at Kirin Cottage now? It wouldn't be fair on Aunt Fanny. But they could not go home because her father and mother were both away, and the house was shut up for a month. I hope we shall not be sent back to school, thought Anne, trying to get comfortable on the sofa. It would be too awful after having left there and started off so gaily on the holidays. So Anne, being the little girl, she was worried. Okay, the house is broken. Where are all of us going to stay? Because she could not go to her parents' house this time during the holidays because her father and mother had actually gone on a vacation. So the house was closed, and that's why they were staying with George. But now the house is broken. What will happen? She thought, oh, maybe if we send to school again, that would be very bad to stay in the hostels. So she was just getting worried. George was afraid of that too. She felt sure that they would all be packed back to their schools the next morning. That would mean that she and Anne wouldn't see Julian and Dick anymore these holidays. For, for the boys, of course, went to a different school. Timmy was the only one who didn't worry about things. He lay on George's feet, snoring a little, quite happy. So long as he was with George, he didn't really mind where he went. So even George was afraid that maybe if they're sent back to school again, that's going to be a bad thing, right? They wanted to enjoy the holidays, they wanted to stay with their parents, and they wanted to meet their brothers. Since Julian and Dick study at a different school, if all of them are sent to school, then back, then they wouldn't get to meet their siblings again for a long time. The only person who was happy in all this, who didn't mind anything that was going on, was Timmy. He was George's pet dog, and since he loved her a lot, he did not mind where he stayed as long he was with her. So that's the end to chapter 2. This has been a decent chapter. We have understood after these children came to house what happened during the night. With the whole storm coming up, a very big tree in near George's house had fallen on the house and broken the house basically, with the rooms being completely destroyed. Now the children are worried on what's going to happen with them since they don't have a place to go, and that's where the story ends here. I'm super excited to know what happens in the next chapter. How are they going to solve this problem? And now they just came to their holidays, and now this happened. So definitely sad for the kids, but let's see how the story pans out in the future. Looking forward to meet all of you in chapter 3. Thank you.